Hello there, and welcome to the Slow 100. I'm glad you found your way here tonight. Maybe you've had a long day and your thoughts are still turning over. Or maybe you simply like to drift off to something gentle and endless, rather than counting sheep in the dark. Either way, tonight is for you. There is nothing you need to do now but rest. Let your shoulders soften. Let your breathing slow. Let your body grow heavy and still, as if the whole weight of the day were finally setting down for the night. Tonight, we're going to wander slowly and quietly through our home in space, the solar system. 100 small facts about the sun and its family of worlds. The planets you know by name, the moons you have never heard of, the frozen edges where the sun's light grows thin and cold. We will begin close to the fire at the center, and we will drift gently outward, world by world, into the dark. You don't need to remember any of it. Each fact stands on its own, like a stone resting in a quiet stream. So wherever sleep finds you, you will have missed nothing at all. Some of these may surprise you. Most will simply keep you company as you fall. So settle in, let your eyes grow heavy, and let the counting begin here in our quiet corner of space. The sun holds more than 99% of all the mass in the solar system. It is easy to picture the sun as one light among many, a single glowing member of a family of worlds. But that isn't quite true. If you gathered every planet, every moon, every asteroid and comet and grain of drifting dust, and weighed them all together, they would still add up to less than 1 part in 100 of the whole. The sun is not simply the center of the solar system. The sun, very nearly, is the solar system. Everything else, the Earth beneath you included, is only the small remainder, the leftover crumbs from its making. We live our whole lives inside the faint outer edge of something vast, circling quietly around a fire that holds almost everything there is. Rest easy in that great, steady keeping. About 1.3 million Earths could fit inside the sun. Numbers that large are hard to feel, so let them settle slowly. Imagine our whole planet, every ocean and mountain and city, every person who has ever lived. Now imagine pouring more than 1 million of those worlds into the sun and still finding room, and still there would be space to spare. The sun is not a little brighter than the planets, or a little larger. It is a different kind of thing altogether, a sphere so wide that the Earth beside it would be a single grain of sand beside a beach ball. And yet, from where you lie, it looks small enough to hide behind your thumb, a warm coin of light held gently in the sky. Distance makes even the greatest things gentle and softens the vast into something you can rest beneath. Sunlight takes a little over 8 minutes to reach us. Light is the fastest thing there is, and still it does not arrive instantly. When you feel the warmth of morning on your face, that warmth is already 8 minutes old. It left the surface of the sun before you noticed it, and crossed 93 million miles of empty space to find you. In a strange and quiet way, we never see the sun as it is right now. We only ever see the sun as it was a few minutes ago, a little memory of light still arriving. So the warmth resting on your skin is a gentle traveler, older than the moment, having crossed the long dark to reach you. Everything we know of the sky is a little bit in the past, a soft procession of old light, still gently on its way. The sun's core burns at roughly 27 million degrees. The surface of the sun is already unimaginably hot, hot enough to boil away any metal we know. But the surface is the cool part. Sink down through its glowing layers toward the very heart, and the temperature climbs and climbs until it reaches millions upon millions of degrees. It is here, in that crushing heat and pressure, that the sun makes its light, fusing the smallest building blocks of matter into something new. There is no flame there as we would know it, only a deep, steady pressure, patient beyond imagining. All of it happens far out of sight, deep inside, quiet and steady, the slow furnace that has warmed every living thing that ever was. Far away and unseen, it keeps its long watch, holding the world in gentle warmth while you rest. Every second, the sun turns about 4 million tons of itself into pure light. The sun shines by giving itself away. In its core, matter is converted into energy, and with each passing second, several million tons of the sun simply cease to be, becoming sunlight instead. It sounds alarming until you remember how enormous the sun truly is. It has been shedding itself this way for billions of years, and it has barely noticed the loss. So vast is the store it draws upon. There is something gentle in that thought. The light that lets you read and grows the trees and lifts the morning mist is the sun quietly spending itself a little at a time so that everything else can live. A slow and open-handed giving, asking nothing back, warming you now as you settle into the dark. The sun is very nearly a perfect sphere. Spinning things tend to bulge at their middles, stretched outward by their own turning. The Earth does it. The great gas planets do it plainly, but the sun, for all its size, is almost flawlessly round, so close to a perfect ball that if you shrank it to the width of your hand, the difference between its widest and narrowest points would be thinner than a hair. It turns so slowly and holds itself so evenly that its own gravity smooths it into near flawless roundness. In a universe full of jagged and lopsided things, the sun holds a quiet, near-perfect symmetry, turning slowly and evenly, keeping its ancient shape as it has for ages beyond counting. A smooth and steady roundness, calm as a still pool, unchanged through all the long years. The sun is roughly halfway through its long life. Stars are born, and stars grow old, and stars eventually fade. Our sun is middle-aged, about 4.5 billion years into a life that will last some 10 billion. There is no reason to feel any worry in that. The changes ahead lie billions of years away, far beyond anything we will ever see, far beyond even the memory of memory. In the whole span of a human life, the sun does not alter at all, holding perfectly steady from your first morning to your last. For all of your life and your children's lives and a great many lives to come, the sun will rise exactly as it always has, steady and warm and unhurried, keeping its slow and patient time. You may rest beneath it as countless others have, sure of its quiet return. Far in the future, the sun will slowly become a red giant. Stars change as they age, and one distant day, billions of years from now, the sun will begin to swell, growing larger and cooler and redder into what we call a red giant. But there is nothing in this to trouble you tonight. That day lies so unimaginably far ahead that the whole of human history is but a single breath beside it. For every moment that will ever matter to you and to everyone you love, the sun will remain exactly the steady, golden companion it has always been, warming the mornings and gilding the quiet evenings. The far future can rest gently where it is, while the sun goes on shining, patient and unchanged, for ages beyond ages, keeping its faithful light. The sun's outer atmosphere is far hotter than its surface. This is one of the small mysteries the sun still keeps. You would expect that the farther you move from the fire, the cooler things become. And yet the thin outer halo of the sun, the faint crown you can see during an eclipse, is hundreds of times hotter than the surface below it. It shimmers there, pale and silver, a soft ring of light around the darkened disk. How the sun heats its own outer air to such extremes is a puzzle astronomers are still gently working through. It is a good reminder that even the star we know best, the one that lights our every day, still holds quiet secrets it has not yet chosen to share. And there is comfort in that, in a familiar friend, keeping a little mystery, patient and unhurried. The light you see tonight left the sun's surface only minutes ago, but it began its journey long before. The energy in a single ray of sunlight is made deep in the core, and from there it must fight its way outward through layer after crushing layer of the sun. It is jostled and slowed at every step, absorbed and released again and again, wandering its slow way toward the open light. That journey, from the heart to the surface, can take many thousands of years. Only then does it leap free and cross to us in 8 quiet minutes. So the sunlight that warms you is ancient and new at once, older than cities, older than any spoken language, made in the deep past and set loose just now, arriving at last in our quiet corner of space. The solar system is mostly empty space. When we draw the planets, we line them up neatly, one beside the next, crowded together on the page. The truth is far emptier and far more peaceful. Between the worlds lie vast gulfs of nothing, distances so wide that light itself takes hours to cross them. If the sun were a beach ball, The Earth would be a small marble rolling some distance down the street, and the outer planets would be scattered across whole neighborhoods. In between, there is only the deep hush of the dark, unbroken, mile upon empty mile. Nearly all of the solar system is simply quiet, dark, open space, with the worlds set far apart, drifting in silence, each keeping its own slow and lonely orbit around the distant fire. A calm and roomy stillness, gentle as a held breath, cradling every world. The sun and everything around it formed from a single collapsing cloud. Long ago, before there was an earth or a sun, there was only a vast cloud of gas and dust drifting in the dark. Something stirred it, perhaps the shudder of a distant, dying star, and it began to fall inward under its own gentle weight. As it fell, it gathered and warmed and spun until, at its center, the sun ignited, and from the leftover material, the planets slowly took shape. Everything you have ever touched and everything you ever will was gathered from that one quiet cloud. The ground beneath you and the light above you are pieces of the same ancient beginning, born together, still traveling together through space. Kin to the planets and the stars, you were folded in at the very start and carried gently ever since. All of the planets orbit in nearly the same flat plane. If you could drift high above the solar system and look down, you would not see the planets scattered every which way. You would see them laid out almost flat, like markings on an enormous invisible record, all turning in roughly the same level circle around the sun. This is a memory of how they were born, from a spinning disk of dust that flattened as it turned, the way a lump of dough spreads wide when it is spun. The shape of that first disk is still written into the sky today. The planets have kept its quiet order for billions of years, tracing the same gentle plane, going round and round without end. A slow and level dance, unhurried and sure, holding its ancient pattern through the long dark. Every planet travels around the sun in the same direction. There is a hidden orderliness to the solar system, an agreement made at the very beginning and never broken. All 8 planets circle the sun the same way, all turning in the same great direction, like horses on a slow and enormous carousel. This too is inherited from that first spinning cloud, which set everything turning one way as it collapsed, and passed that turning on to all it made. Billions of years later, the planets still remember. They move together, never colliding, never crossing, each in its own lane, wheeling around the sun, in the same patient direction they have followed since time out of mind. There is a deep calm in such agreement, a quiet procession of worlds, each keeping faithfully to its own gentle path, round and round through the peaceful dark. The entire solar system is racing through the galaxy right now. It feels as though we are still. The ground is solid, the night is quiet, nothing seems to move, and yet the sun and the earth and you upon it are sweeping through the galaxy at astonishing speed, carried along in a great slow current of stars. We do not feel it because everything near us moves together, the way you cannot feel the motion of a ship far below deck. The whole night sky travels with you, so the journey stays perfectly smooth and silent. Even now, as you lie here settling towards sleep, you are traveling farther through space than you could ever walk in a lifetime, carried gently and effortlessly, going somewhere without lifting a finger. Let the great smooth motion carry you, as steady and soothing as a cradle in the dark. The sun takes about 230 million years to circle the galaxy once. The Earth circles the sun in a single year, and that feels long enough. But the sun itself is also traveling, sweeping in a vast orbit around the distant center of the galaxy. And that circle is so enormous that a single lap takes hundreds of millions of years. The last time the sun was where it is now in that great orbit, the earliest dinosaurs were just appearing on Earth. Whole forests have grown and fallen, whole seas have risen and dried in the time it takes for one slow turn. There are rhythms in the sky so slow that whole ages of life rise and fall within a single turn. We live inside a clock whose hands move too slowly to see, and there is a deep peace in belonging to so unhurried a time. The planets are far smaller and far farther apart than most pictures show. Every diagram has to cheat a little. To fit the planets onto a page, we shrink the distances and swell the worlds until they look like a tidy row of neighbors. In reality, the planets are tiny specks scattered across an ocean of dark. If Earth were the size of a pea, the sun would be a great ball many strides away, and Neptune would be lost somewhere far down the road, a distant grain in the blackness. Between them stretches nothing but calm and open distance, mile upon patient mile. The solar system is not crowded, it is spacious and still and quiet. A handful of small worlds adrift in a very great deal of nothing, each drifting softly in its own wide and peaceful room. Everything here was built from the dust of ancient, dead stars. The atoms that make the planets and the seas and your own two hands were not made here. They were forged long ago in the hearts of other stars, stars that lived and died before the sun was born, scattering their riches into space as they went. Each ending seeded the dark with the makings of worlds to come. From that enriched dust, our solar system was gathered. The iron in your blood and the calcium in your bones were once inside a star, glowing in some vanished fire. You are, in the gentlest and most literal way, made of stardust, a small living arrangement of ancient starlight, resting quietly on a small blue world. Old beyond old, and yet perfectly at home, gathered together for a while in the shape of you. The solar system has a distinct inner half and an outer half. There is a natural division to the sun's family. Close in are the small, hard, rocky worlds, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, warmed by the nearby fire. Far out are the giants, huge and cold and wrapped in deep atmospheres, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. Between them lies a quiet gap, a belt of drifting rubble that marks the border, a soft frontier of stone and ice. It is almost as if the solar system were built in two chapters, the small warm worlds near the light and the great cold worlds out in the dark, each half with its own character, its own mood, its own slow story to tell. Two gentle halves of one family, near and far, warm and cold, resting together around the same old fire. A great frost line once decided which worlds became rock and which became gas. When the solar system was forming, the heat of the young sun reached only so far. Close in, it was too warm for ice to survive, and only rock and metal could gather there. So the inner planets grew small and dense and hard. Farther out, beyond an invisible boundary we call the frost line, it was cold enough for ice to hold, and with so much more ice to draw upon, the planets there grew vast, swelling into the great gas giants. It was less a wall than a gentle threshold, a place where warmth gave way to cold. That single line, drawn in warmth and cold long ago, shaped the whole character of our quiet corner of space and set every world on the path it still follows. On the darkest nights, you can sometimes see the faint glow of the solar system's own dust. Scattered across the flat plane where the planet's orbit is a fine haze of dust, left over from old comets and the slow grinding of asteroids. When the conditions are just right, far from any city light, this dust catches the sunlight and forms a soft, pale, triangular glow in the sky after dusk or before dawn, so gentle that it is easily mistaken for the last light of the day. It is called the zodiacal light, and it is, quite literally, the shimmer of the solar system's own scattered dust. Even the empty spaces between the worlds are not truly empty, but faintly aglow, softly lit, quietly and unexpectedly beautiful. Mercury is the smallest planet, barely larger than our own moon. At the very edge of the sun's glare, closest of all the planets, circles a small grey world you could easily overlook. Mercury is so little that several moons in the solar system are larger than it is. It has no grand storms, no rings, no colourful bands of cloud, only a quiet, cratered face, scorched and pocked and ancient, much like our own moon to look upon. It is the smallest member of the family, the nearest to the fire, and the least of them in size, hurrying along its tight little orbit, keeping close to the warmth through all the long ages. A modest grey stone circling the great bright centre, patient and unhurried, asking for nothing, easy to miss, and quietly enduring, keeping its small, quiet place in the light. Mercury swings from scorching heat to deep, bitter cold. You might expect the planet nearest the sun to be simply, endlessly hot. But Mercury has almost no air to hold its warmth, and so it cannot keep the heat it gathers. Without a blanket of atmosphere, the warmth simply leaks away into space the moment the sun goes down. In the long day, the sunlit side blazes hot enough to melt lead. In the long night, with nothing to trap the warmth, the temperature plunges far below anything on Earth. On a single small world, the two greatest extremes sit side by side, fire and frost, divided only by the slow turn from day into night, each giving way to the other without pause. A quiet world of opposites, forever tilting gently from one into the other through the slow and silent turning. A single day on Mercury lasts longer than its entire year. Time runs strangely on the small first planet. Mercury races around the sun quickly, finishing a whole year in only 88 of our days. But it turns on its own axis very slowly, so slowly that from one sunrise to the next takes even longer than a full trip around the sun. The sun itself would seem to crawl across that sky, barely moving from hour to hour. This means that on Mercury, in a real sense, the day is longer than the year. If you lived there, you would celebrate your birthday more than once before the sun had finished a single, slow crossing of your sky. The ordinary rhythms we trust simply come undone, and time itself seems to slow to a gentle, dreamlike drift where nothing ever needs to hurry. Mercury hides pockets of ice in its shadowed craters. It seems impossible that the closest planet to the sun, a world of scorching days, could hold any ice at all. And yet, it does. At Mercury's poles lie deep craters, whose floors never once catch the sunlight, and in that permanent shadow the cold runs deep and unbroken. The sun never climbs high enough there to reach the bottom, so those hollows have stayed frozen through the ages. There, tucked away from the fire, small hidden reserves of ice have survived, quietly, perhaps for billions of years. Even on the sun-baked doorstep of the sun, there are cold and secret corners where something delicate can endure, sheltered in the dark, patient and untouched. A small, still keeping, held safe in shadow, waiting without hurry in the quiet, through age upon patient age. Mercury is slowly shrinking as its core cools. Mercury is not quite finished changing. Deep inside, its metal core is very slowly giving up its ancient heat, and as it cools, it contracts, and the whole planet draws in a little tighter around it. Over enormous spans of time, this has left the surface wrinkled and creased, marked with long ridges where the crust has buckled and folded inward like the skin of a drying fruit. Some of these ridges run for hundreds of miles, low and soft against the grey. It happens far too slowly to ever see, over millions and millions of quiet years. The little planet is gently settling, growing older, drawing itself in as it slowly gives up the warmth of its birth, a slow and peaceful aging, unhurried as breath, folding inward in the dark. Mercury has a surprisingly large iron heart for its size. For such a small world, Mercury hides something outsized within. Beneath its thin, rocky shell lies an enormous metal core, taking up most of the planet, far larger in proportion than the core of any other rocky world. Mercury is, in a sense, mostly heart, a great ball of iron wrapped in a thin, stony skin. Why it turned out this way is still gently debated among those who study it. Perhaps a great collision long ago stripped away its outer layers, leaving the dense center behind. Perhaps it was simply born close to the fire where heavy things gathered. Whatever the cause, the smallest planet carries the largest heart, hidden quietly beneath its scarred and ancient face, a deep iron core, still and enduring, resting at the center of the little grey world. Mercury moves faster around the Sun than any other planet. Held close by the Sun's powerful pull, Mercury cannot afford to dawdle. It races along its orbit faster than any of its siblings, sweeping around the Sun at tremendous speed, completing a full year, while the Earth has barely finished a season. The nearer a world sits to the fire, the harder it must run to hold its place, and Mercury sits nearest of all. The ancient astronomers noticed this quickness long ago and named the planet after a swift and fleet-footed messenger. It is well suited. Mercury is forever hurrying, forever ahead, circling the fire in tight, quick loops, the fastest traveler in the whole of the Sun's slow and stately family. And yet, from our far, quiet distance, even that great speed looks gentle, a small light gliding softly through the dark. Faint tails of sodium stream quietly behind Mercury. Small and airless as it is, Mercury still trails something delicate through space. The Sun's light and particles gently lift atoms from its surface, tapping them loose one by one. And among them are traces of sodium, which glow faintly and stream away from the planet in a long, soft tail, a little like the tail of a comet. The steady pressure of sunlight combs them backward, away from the Sun, into a slender, drifting line. It is thin and pale and utterly silent, invisible to the eye, revealed only by careful instruments. So even here, close to the fire, there is something soft and delicate to see. Even the smallest, most modest world in the family has its own faint banner, a quiet ribbon of glow drifting behind it as it hurries along through our quiet corner of space. Venus is the hottest planet of them all. You might guess that the closest planet to the Sun would be the warmest, but it is not. That title belongs to Venus, the second world out, wrapped in a thick and heavy blanket of cloud and gas that traps the Sun's heat and never lets it escape. The warmth pours in through the clouds and then cannot find its way back out, building slowly, year upon year. Beneath that suffocating layer, the surface of Venus is hotter than an oven, hot enough to melt lead, hotter than any other place among the planets. It is a runaway warmth, held in and multiplied by the dense air above. Distance from the fire is not everything. Sometimes it is what you wrap around yourself that matters most, the blanket you keep more than the hearth you sit beside. Venus spins backward compared to nearly everything else. Almost everything in the solar system turns the same way, a memory of that first spinning cloud. Venus did not keep the agreement. It rotates in the opposite direction, slowly and stubbornly turning against the grain, so that if you could stand on its hidden surface and part the clouds, you would see the sun rise in the west and set in the east. It turns so gently, too, that a single spin takes longer than you might ever imagine. No one is quite certain why. Perhaps some great blow long ago tipped it and reversed its turning, or perhaps its thick air slowly dragged it around over the ages. Venus keeps its own counsel, going its own way, quietly contrary among a family that otherwise moves as one, unbothered and serene in its backward turning. A day on Venus is longer than a year on Venus. Venus turns so slowly that a single rotation, one full day, takes longer than the time it needs to travel all the way around the sun. In other words, on Venus, the day outlasts the year. Picture a sunrise so gradual that it would seem to hang forever at the edge of that hidden sky. It is one of the strangest clocks in the solar system, a world where the sunrise comes so rarely and so slowly that the calendar cannot keep pace with it. Time there stretches and blurs into something almost unrecognizable, the days enormous and unhurried, the years slipping by inside them, everything turning at its own patient, dream-like pace, a place where the hours pool and soften and there is never any reason at all to hurry. Venus is wrapped in thick clouds of sulfuric acid. From far away, Venus is beautiful, a smooth, pale, pearl-colored world, gleaming softly in our sky. But its loveliness is a veil. Those bright clouds are not made of gentle water like our own. They are clouds of sulfuric acid, dense and choking, drifting high above a crushing, superheated surface. High in that atmosphere, they race around the planet faster than any wind on Earth, wrapping the whole world in pale gold. It is a strange lesson in how the distant can deceive the near. The prettiest light in the evening sky hides one of the harshest places we know. And still, from here, softened by distance, Venus only glows, calm and radiant and quiet, a lovely lamp in the dusk, keeping its troubles entirely to itself, far off and softly shining. Venus and Earth are nearly the same size, like sister worlds. Of all the planets, Venus is the one most like our own in its bones. It is almost exactly as wide as the Earth, nearly as heavy, made of much the same rock and metal, formed in the same place at the same time. In their beginnings, the two worlds must have looked like twins, two young planets side by side in the light, and yet their paths diverged completely, one becoming a blue and living world of oceans and gentle skies, the other a scorched and shrouded furnace. So small a difference at the start, and so vast a difference in the end. Two worlds born so alike, grown so different. It is a quiet reminder of how gently balanced and how precious our own mild world truly is. Venus is the brightest natural light in our night sky after the moon. Look to the west after sunset or the east before dawn, and you may see it. A single steady point of light so bright it outshines every star. That is Venus, catching the sunlight on its brilliant clouds and throwing it back across the dark to us. Its clouds are so pale and smooth that they mirror the sun, almost like fresh snow, which is why it shines so clear and calm. It does not twinkle as the stars do, but holds steady, soft, and sure. For thousands of years, people have watched it and called it the evening star and the morning star, not realizing they were the same. It has kept faithful company with our species for all of our history, a calm, bright lantern hanging low in the twilight in our quiet corner of space. Venus keeps its true surface hidden beneath a permanent veil of cloud. For most of history, no one had ever seen the face of Venus. Its unbroken clouds hide the ground completely, so that from outside the planet is a smooth, blank pearl, giving nothing away. Radar can slip through where light cannot, reading the shape of the land by its echoes. Only by sending spacecraft to peer through the clouds with radar have we finally glimpsed what lies below, a dry and rugged land of old volcanoes and wide plains, never touched by direct sunlight. Down there, even at noon, the light is dim and reddish, filtered soft through the endless cloud. For all its brightness in our sky, Venus is a world that guards its secrets closely, showing us only the soft outer glow and keeping its true face quietly concealed. Venus may hold more volcanoes than any other planet we know. Beneath those hidden clouds, the surface of Venus is shaped by fire. It is covered with volcanoes, thousands upon thousands of them, more than we have found on any other world, some enormous, some small, sprawling across its plains. Some rise in broad, gentle slopes, wider than whole mountain ranges here at home. Many are ancient and still, but there are gentle hints that a few may not be entirely finished, that somewhere down in the heat, the planet still stirs. It is thought that here and there, warmth may still rise slowly from within. It is a quiet, smouldering world, its face carved by old eruptions, resting now beneath its clouds, keeping the slow memory of fire in every ridge and rise, dreaming warmly to itself in the dark. Earth is the only planet not named after a god. All around it, the planets carry the names of ancient gods and goddesses, Mercury and Venus, Mars and Jupiter, handed down from old Roman skies. Only our own world is different. The name Earth comes not from a deity, but from humble old words simply meaning the ground, the soil, the land beneath our feet. There is something fitting in that. The one world we actually live upon is named not for a distant power in the heavens, but for the plain, solid earth we walk each day. Think of the smell of turned soil, the cool of grass at dusk, the small weight of a stone in your hand. It is the ordinary ground that holds us, quiet and close and home, asking for nothing but that we rest upon it. Earth is the densest planet in the solar system. For all the giants and wonders out in the dark, our modest world holds one quiet record. Packed together, ounce for ounce, Earth is the densest of all the planets, heavier for its size than any other, with its iron heart and stony body drawn tightly together. The great gas giants are far larger, but they are puffed up and airy, light for all their bulk. Our world is compact and solid, dense and complete, a small, heavy jewel of rock and metal. Deep inside, layer presses upon layer, metal beneath stone, stone beneath sea. Beneath your resting body lies the most tightly gathered world the sun has, holding you firmly to its surface. Nowhere else in the sun's family is matter gathered so close, so quietly and completely together. Let it hold you now, steady and sure, while you settle softly towards sleep. Earth is the only world we know where water falls as rain. On many worlds there is water, frozen in ice or hidden deep, but only here, as far as we have found, does it move freely through the whole gentle cycle we take for granted. Here, water rises unseen into the air, gathers into clouds, and falls again as rain, feeding rivers that run down to the sea, only to rise once more. That quiet, endless turning of water through sky and land is, so far, ours alone. Every drop you have ever seen has made this slow journey many times before. Imagine the hush after a shower, the smell of wet earth, the slow drip from the eaves. The soft sound of rain against a window is a rare music in the solar system, and it plays only here, gentle and steady, easing the whole tired world toward rest. Earth's magnetic field quietly shields us from the solar wind. The sun does not send only light and warmth. It also blows a constant, invisible wind of particles out across the solar system, and that wind can strip away air and harm living things. But deep within the Earth, the churning of its molten iron core generates a vast magnetic field, an unseen shield that wraps the whole planet and turns the solar wind gently aside. We never notice it, yet it guards us every moment of every day. Where the wind spills over the poles, it paints the sky with soft curtains of green light, the quiet auroras. Far above your dim room, a silent field surrounds the world, holding back the storm from the sun, keeping the soft air safe below, so you may rest untroubled beneath it. Earth is the only planet we know with drifting continents. The ground feels perfectly still, and over a lifetime, it is. But over ages, the great plates of Earth's crust drift slowly across its surface, carrying whole continents with them, no faster than your fingernails grow. Mountains rise where they collide, oceans open where they part, and the map of the world is slowly, endlessly rewritten. No other planet we have found does quite this. Our restless, living crust is unusual, perhaps even rare. The very shape of the world is only a passing arrangement, never truly final. Whole seas have opened and closed while the land wandered, too slow for any eye to catch. The solid ground beneath you is not fixed at all, only patient, adrift on a slow and secret journey that no single life will ever see complete, moving so gently that it feels, to us, like perfect stillness. The moon is drifting slowly away from us, a little each year. The moon has been our companion since almost the beginning, but it is not standing still. With each passing year, it edges a tiny bit farther from the Earth, only a few centimeters, about the pace your fingernails grow. Long ago it hung much closer and larger in the sky. Far in the future, it will be a little smaller and more distant. but not in any span that touches you or yours. The tides themselves are gently nudging it outward, year upon patient year. The distance it gains across a whole year would barely span your two open hands. For all of human time it has looked just as it does tonight, a familiar face slowly, imperceptibly taking its leave over spans too vast to feel, still keeping its soft watch above you while you drift towards sleep. The moon always keeps the same face turned toward Earth. In all the long history of our species, no one on Earth ever saw the far side of the moon until we sent machines to fly around it. This is because the moon turns on its axis in exactly the time it takes to circle us, so it forever holds the same gentle face toward the Earth and hides the other away. The rabbit, the man in the moon, the soft grey patterns you know, are the same ones your distant ancestors knew. Long ago, the Earth's pull slowed its turning until the two fell into step, locked in a slow and unhurried dance. It has watched over us patiently, always with the same expression, never once looking away, a steady face in the dark to rest your eyes upon. The moon was likely born from a colossal collision with the young Earth. Our moon has a dramatic origin, hidden behind its calm face. Long ago, when the Earth was young, another world about the size of Mars is thought to have struck it a glancing, tremendous blow. The impact flung a great cloud of molten debris into space, and from that ring of wreckage, slowly, the moon gathered itself together. So the gentle light that falls on your window each month was born in one of the most violent moments our world has ever known. Over ages, the glowing ring cooled and drew together, until a soft, round companion took shape in the dark. Out of an ancient collision came a quiet friend, and it has circled us in stillness ever since, its old fire long since faded into silver calm. The moon has gentle quakes of its own. The moon seems perfectly still, a dead and silent world, but it is not entirely quiet within. Now and then, faint tremors move through it, soft moonquakes, stirred by the pull of the Earth, by the slow cooling of its interior, by the warmth of the returning sun on its long, cold mornings. They are mostly small and gentle, felt only by delicate instruments left behind by astronauts long ago. A single moonquake can ring on far longer than any tremor here, humming softly through the dry stone. Deep beneath the dust, the old rock settles and shifts by the smallest measure, easing itself in the cold. Even the still grey moon has a faint inner life, a quiet, occasional shiver passing through it, small stirrings in a world that otherwise sleeps, so slight they would never wake a soul resting upon it. The tides are the moon's quiet pull made visible. Twice each day, all around the world, the seas rise and fall, gathering along the shore and then slipping away again. That slow breathing of the oceans is the moon's doing. Its gentle gravity reaches across the emptiness and tugs at the water, drawing it up into a soft bulge that follows the moon around the turning Earth. The greatest, most patient rhythm on our planet, the endless rise and fall of the tide, is simply the sky and the sea holding hands across the distance. Fishermen and children have watched it come and go for as long as there have been shores to stand upon. Somewhere in the world a tide is always turning, rising along one shore as it slips from another. Even now, unseen in the dark, the moon is pulling gently at the oceans in our quiet corner of space. By a strange and lovely coincidence, the sun and moon appear almost the same size in our sky. The sun is vastly larger than the moon, but it is also vastly farther away. And by pure chance, these two great differences very nearly cancel each other out. So the two appear as almost exactly the same small disk from where we stand. It is this quiet accident that gives us total eclipses, when the moon slips precisely in front of the sun and covers it completely, for a few hushed minutes, turning the day into a soft and startling twilight. No other planet has a moon that fits its sun so neatly. It is a small piece of cosmic good fortune, unfolding gently and rarely in the sky above us, there and then gone. Earth's spin is very gradually slowing down. The day has not always been the length it is now. Long ago, the Earth turned faster, and its days were shorter, only a handful of hours from one dawn to the next. But the slow drag of the tides, the moon's patient pull upon the seas, has been gently breaking our spin for billions of years. Little by little, the days grow longer, by the smallest fraction, far too slowly to ever notice. Deep in the age of the dinosaurs, the day was shorter than it is tonight. Each passing century adds only the faintest sliver of time, less than a single blink. Far ahead, our distant descendants may know days a little longer and calmer than ours. Time itself, in its quiet way, is stretching, one imperceptible moment at a time, granting the world an ever so slightly longer rest with each passing age. Mars is home to the tallest volcano in the solar system. On the small red planet stands a mountain unlike anything on Earth. It is called Olympus Mons, an ancient volcano so vast it would dwarf any peak our world has ever raised, rising nearly 3 times the height of Everest, and so wide it would cover a great many countries. Its slopes are so gentle and so long that if you stood upon them, you might not even know you were climbing a mountain at all. Its broad summit would rise clear above much of the thin Martian air into a dark and starry hush. No fire has stirred within it for millions upon millions of years. It has stood silent for ages, a giant at rest, the greatest volcano in the sun's whole family, sleeping quietly on a distant, rusty plain, its long shadow falling soft across the stillness. Mars holds the longest, deepest canyon we have ever found. Slicing across the face of Mars runs an immense system of canyons called valles marineris, so long that it would stretch across an entire continent on Earth, and so deep that our own Grand Canyon would seem a small scratch beside it. If it were placed on our world, it would reach nearly from one coast to another. It was carved not by water, but by the slow cracking and pulling apart of the planet's crust long ago. Its walls fall away into shadow, layer beneath layer, into a silence no wind has troubled for an age. You could lose a whole mountain range within its depths and hardly notice. It waits there now, in the red silence, a vast and quiet wound across the little world, patient and unchanging, resting in the long calm of the desert dark. Mars looks red because its soil is full of rust, the warm, reddish color that has made Mars a wanderer in our myths, the color that earned it the name of a god of war, comes from something surprisingly ordinary. The soil of Mars is rich in iron, and over the ages that iron has rusted, tinting the whole surface in shades of rust and ochre and pale orange. Mars is, quite literally, a rusting world, its dust the same color as an old iron gate left out in the rain. Ages of thin air and faint traces of moisture slowly turned its metal to soft powder. The winds have carried that rust across every plain and dune. The fierce red planet of ancient fears is, in truth, only a quiet desert, gently rusted by time, its warm colors glowing low and calm, like embers cooling towards sleep. Mars is only about half as wide as the Earth. Though it looms large in our imagination, Mars is actually a small world, only about half the width of our own, with far less room and far weaker gravity. If you stood upon it, you would feel light, able to leap higher and farther than you ever could at home. Its thin air and gentle pull give it a delicate, faraway quality. A modest little planet playing an outsized role in our dreams. A stone let go there would fall slowly, drifting down as if the whole world moved at a gentler pace. Two such little worlds, set side by side, would barely match the breadth of Earth. For all the stories we have told about it, Mars is a small and quiet place, a cold, red, half-sized world waiting patiently out beyond us, unhurried and calm in the dark. Mars has two small, lumpy moons. Mars keeps two little companions named Phobos and Deimos, but they are nothing like our own round and stately moon. They are tiny, misshapen lumps of rock, more like captured asteroids than proper moons, tumbling close above the Martian surface. The larger one circles so near and so fast that it rises and sets several times in a single Martian day. The smaller one is fainter still, a dim speck that drifts across the night so slowly you might take it for a quiet star. In the far future, it will likely drift down and break apart into a faint ring. From the red plains below, they would look like pale drifting stones, small and dim against the dark. For now they orbit quietly, two small dark shapes keeping the red planet gentle company in the emptiness, turning on and on without a sound. Mars once had rivers, lakes, and flowing water. The cold, dry Mars we see today was not always so barren. Long ago, when the little planet was warmer and its air was thicker, water ran freely across its surface. We can still read the signs in dry riverbeds winding across the plains, in the outlines of ancient lake floors, in stones that could only have been shaped by moving water. For a while, Mars may have looked a little like a young Earth, with rivers catching the sunlight. Rain may once have fallen there, and shallow seas may have lapped at quiet shores. Under a warmer and younger sun, the little planet may have gleamed here and there with blue. That gentle world is long gone now, but its memory is written faintly into the landscape, quiet traces of vanished streams, sleeping beneath the dust where the water used to run. Sunsets on Mars glow a soft, dusty blue. On Earth, our sunsets burn red and gold, and our daytime sky is blue. On Mars, strangely, it is the other way around. The fine dust in the Martian air scatters the light so that the daytime sky glows a dull butterscotch, while around the setting sun, a soft, cool blue gathers and spreads. A traveler standing on those rusty plains would watch the sun sink not in fire, but in a gentle wash of blue light, quiet and otherworldly. The little sun, smaller and paler than the one we know, would slip toward the horizon without a sound. For long, quiet minutes, the cool glow would linger, spreading soft across the darkening dust. Even the endings of days are different out there, painted in unfamiliar colors, calm and strange and beautiful, a blue dusk settling softly over the sleeping desert. Mars has seasons much like Earth's, only longer. Mars leans on its axis at nearly the same tilt as the Earth, and so, like us, it has spring and summer, autumn and winter, as it circles the sun. But its year is almost twice as long as ours, and so each season stretches out to nearly double its length. Winters are long and deep, and the Martian poles grow white with frost, only to shrink again as the slow summer returns. Each spring the frost withdraws by patient inches, uncovering the quiet dust beneath. A child of that world, were there ever such a one, would wait nearly twice as long for each summer to return. It is a familiar rhythm, played out on an unfamiliar world, the same turning of the seasons we know at home, only slower and colder and far away, unwinding gently across the long and peaceful years. Dust storms on Mars can swallow the entire planet. Mars is a quiet world, but now and then it stirs. Winds lift its fine red dust into the air, and on rare occasions a storm can grow and grow until it wraps the whole planet in a haze, hiding the surface completely from view for weeks at a time. They are not fierce the way an earthly storm is, for the air is far too thin to knock you down. They are slow and vast and strangely gentle, great tides of drifting dust. From far above, the whole world softens to a smooth, pale globe, its features veiled and dim. The dust hangs so lightly in the thin air that it may take many weeks to fall. They cloak the little world in red, then settle once more into stillness and silence, the dust drifting slowly back to rest upon the plains. Between Mars and Jupiter drifts a belt of ancient rock. Beyond the small red planet, before you reach the giants, lies a wide and scattered ring of rubble, the asteroid belt. It is made of countless chunks of rock and metal, from tiny pebbles to small worlds hundreds of miles across, all circling the sun together in the great gap between the inner and outer planets. These are the leftover pieces, the building blocks that never quite came together into a planet of their own. They have drifted unchanged since the solar system was young, keeping the same slow paths for ages. No world ever grew from them, and no world ever will, so they simply endure. They drift there still, ancient and untouched, quiet fragments of the solar system's beginning, orbiting patiently in the space between the warm worlds and the cold, asking nothing, disturbing no one. The asteroid belt is far emptier than films suggest. In stories, the asteroid belt is a crowded, dangerous place, a churning field of tumbling rocks you must dodge and weave between. The truth is far calmer and far lonelier. The asteroids are spread across such a vast volume of space that they lie enormously far apart, often millions of miles from their nearest neighbor. If you stood upon one, you would likely see no other, only empty stars in every direction. The silence there is complete, unbroken by any neighbor near enough to see. A traveler could drift straight through the whole belt and pass near almost nothing at all. Every spacecraft we have sent through the belt has passed unharmed and untroubled. It is not a crowd at all, but a scattering of solitary stones in a very great emptiness, each drifting quietly along its own long, patient path. All the asteroids together would not equal our own moon. It is tempting to imagine the asteroid belt holds an enormous amount of material, the makings of a whole lost planet. But if you gathered up every asteroid there is, every rock and boulder and drifting stone in the entire belt, and rolled them into a single ball, that ball would be smaller than our moon. The belt only seems vast because it is spread across such an immense stretch of space. Most of that space holds nothing at all, only the dark and the distant stars. Gathered into one, that lost little planet would be a modest thing indeed. In truth, it holds very little, a thin scattering of debris, quiet crumbs left over from the making of the worlds, drifting far apart in the dark, each stone alone with its own slow orbit and its own long silence. The belt never became a planet because of Jupiter's endless pull. There is a reason the asteroids never gathered into a world of their own. Nearby looms Jupiter, by far the largest planet, and its powerful gravity constantly stirs and tugs at the belt, keeping the pieces moving too quickly and too roughly to ever gently settle together. Every time the rubble began to gather, the giant unsettled it again. Age after age, the pieces were nudged apart before they could ever hold. Even now, from far across the dark, the giant's steady tugging keeps the pieces spread and unsettled. And so the belt remains forever unfinished, a planet that was never allowed to be born, held in scattered pieces by the restless pull of its enormous neighbor, drifting on and on in its incomplete and ancient state, at peace now in its long and quiet rest. Ceres, a small round world, hides within the belt. Not everything in the asteroid belt is a jagged stone. The largest object there, called Ceres, is big enough that its own gravity has pulled it into a gentle sphere, a small round world in its own right, so notable that we call it a dwarf planet. It is a quiet, icy, rocky place, and there are hints that water may lie frozen beneath its surface, or even seep up now and then in faint, bright patches. Under the dim and distant sunlight, those pale spots gleam softly against the grey. Round and quiet, it holds within itself a great share of all the belt contains. Among the drifting rubble, Ceres is a small hidden world, round and complete, the gentle giant of the asteroid belt, keeping its slow orbit in the dark, patient and untroubled among the scattered stones. Some asteroids carry their own tiny moons. It is not only the planets that have companions. Astronomers have discovered that many asteroids, even quite small ones, are circled by their own little moons. Tiny stones held in orbit by the faint gravity of a slightly larger stone. Two small rocks drifting together through the emptiness, one turning gently around the other, keeping each other company in the vast quiet of the belt. Round and round they go, slow and unhurried, bound softly across the little gap between them. Some of these little moons may have been born when two stones met and softly touched, long ago. There is something touching in the thought. Even the smallest and most humble objects in the solar system, out there in the cold and the dark, are often not entirely alone, but travel side by side through the long silence together. Comets are icy wanderers that visit us from the frozen outer reaches. Out in the deep cold, far beyond the planets, drift countless small bodies of ice and dust, quiet and dark. Now and then, one is nudged gently inward and begins to fall slowly toward the sun. And as it nears the warmth, its ice starts to glow and stream away, unfurling into a long, luminous tail that can reach across the whole of the sky. For a few weeks it graces our nights, a soft visitor from far away, and then it swings around the sun and slips off again into the dark, not to return for years or centuries or longer still. Comets are the solar system's quiet travelers, brief and beautiful, come from the cold to visit the light, and then gently gone. The meteor showers we watch are the leftover dust of passing comets. When a comet travels through the inner solar system, it leaves behind a faint trail of tiny particles scattered quietly along its path. Each year, as the Earth crosses one of these old trails, those specks of dust drift down into our atmosphere and burn away in silent streaks of light, the shooting stars we make our wishes upon. So, the meteors you have watched fall on quiet summer nights are the scattered crumbs of ancient comets, long since departed into the dark. The sky is gently recycling its old wanderers, turning faded dust into new and fleeting light, a soft and endless falling, silent and unhurried, in the calm of the night. Pluto is smaller than several moons in our own system. Far out beyond Neptune circles Pluto, a small and distant world that once counted among the planets and is now known as a dwarf planet. It is a tiny place, smaller even than our own moon and smaller than several of the moons that circle the giant planets. But its size takes nothing from its quiet charm. It is a world of ice and faint red tints, drifting in the deep cold at the far edge of the sun's realm. From its frozen surface, the sun would look like little more than a bright and tender star. Noon upon it would be no brighter than a soft silver dusk back home. Small and remote and lovely, it keeps its long, slow orbit through the outer dark, far from the warmth of home, patient in the cold and quiet, at the edge of everything. Pluto carries a vast, heart-shaped plain of frozen ice. When at last a spacecraft flew past Pluto and sent back its pictures, it revealed something unexpectedly tender. Across the little world's face lies an enormous pale plain, shaped remarkably like a heart, a great smooth basin of frozen nitrogen ice, gleaming softly in the dim and distant sunlight. That gentle, icy heart has become the emblem of Pluto, a small, warm shape on a cold, far world. Slowly, over ages, the ice within it turns and renews itself, smoothing the surface as gently as a breath. No craters scar its face, for the soft ice keeps quietly smoothing them away. As if the most distant outpost of the sun's family had been marked, quietly, with a sign of affection, it waits out there in the dark to be found, a soft heart of ice held steady in the endless cold. A single year on Pluto lasts nearly 250 of hours. So far is Pluto from the Sun, and so vast is its slow orbit that a single trip around takes almost 250 Earth years to complete. Since Pluto was first discovered less than a century ago, it has not yet finished even one full circuit in our sight. A person born there, if such a thing could be, would never live to see a single birthday. Whole lifetimes come and go on Earth, while Pluto creeps along one small arc of its path. The seasons there change so slowly that a single one may outlast a whole human life, unfolding in patient silence. Time unwinds so slowly at the edge of the solar system that whole human histories pass within one long, patient Plutonian year, circling quietly through the dark, in no hurry at all to reach the end. Countless frozen worlds likely wait undiscovered in the outer dark. Pluto is not alone out there. Beyond Neptune, in the deep cold at the fringe of the solar system, there is thought to be a great scattering of small eye worlds, most of them still unseen, waiting quietly in the dark for us to find them. Now and then we discover another, faint and slow and far away. Many more must drift out there still, unnamed, unnoticed, circling the distant sun in orbits that take centuries or longer. Each keeps its own long silence, too dim and too distant for any eye to catch. With every passing year, our instruments reach a little deeper, and now and then another quiet world drifts softly into view. The solar system does not end tidily. It fades gently outward into a dim frontier, sprinkled with hidden worlds in our quiet corner of space. Jupiter is more massive than all the other planets combined. Out beyond the asteroid belt reigns Jupiter, the giant of the solar system, and its scale is hard to hold in the mind. If you gathered every other planet together, all the rock of the inner worlds and all the gas of the other giants, and weighed them against Jupiter alone, Jupiter would still be heavier. It is more than twice as massive as everything else put together. Its pull is so strong it stirs the whole family of planets, tugging even the distant sun a little as it goes. It is the great elder of the planets, vast and slow and striped with cloud, the true king of the sun's family, wheeling in stately silence far out in the cold. And still it drifts on, gently patient and unhurried, holding its quiet place among the stars. Jupiter's great red spot is a storm wider than the whole Earth. On Jupiter's banded face turns a single enormous storm, a swirling reddish oval that has raged for centuries, perhaps far longer. It is so large that our entire planet could be dropped inside it with room to spare. The winds within it are ferocious, faster than any gale on Earth, and yet from a distance it only drifts, a slow and silent whirl of color, turning and turning through the ages. It rises high above the surrounding clouds, cool and calm at its center, cushioned by the storms that feed it. Sailors of the sky have watched it for hundreds of years. It is the greatest storm we know of anywhere, and still, from far away, it looks like nothing more than a soft red eye gazing quietly out across the dark. Jupiter has the shortest day of any planet. For all its enormous size, Jupiter spins astonishingly fast. Though it is by far the largest planet, it turns all the way around in less than 10 hours, so that a single day there is shorter than a night's sleep on Earth. This rapid spinning flattens the giant slightly, bulging it out at the middle and pressing it in at the poles, and stretches its clouds into the long, sweeping bands we see across its face. The faster it turns, the more those bands are drawn out into ribbons. There is a strange grace to it, a world so vast turning so quickly, its great striped body wheeling around once and again while our own long day has barely begun. It spins steadily far out in the dark, patient in its hurry, calm at the heart of all that motion. Jupiter wears faint rings that few people ever hear about. When we think of ringed planets, we think of Saturn, and rightly so. But Jupiter, too, has rings, faint and dark and easily overlooked, made of fine dust rather than bright ice. That dust is thought to be flung up from its small inner moons, struck now and then by tiny wandering stones. They circle the giant quietly, so thin and dim that we did not even know of them, until a passing spacecraft caught them backlit by the sun. They keep no grand display, only a delicate, dusky halo, a soft and secret adornment around the greatest of the planets. It drifts there unseen by earthly eyes, patient and understated in the cold, a quiet ring that asks to be noticed by no one at all, content in its long silence. Jupiter is a world with no solid surface to stand upon. There is no ground on Jupiter, no shore to land on, no place to set your feet. It is a giant ball of gas and liquid, growing thicker and denser the deeper you go, without any firm surface anywhere. The clouds give way to warmer haze, and the haze to a strange deep sea of liquid too heavy to imagine. If you tried to descend into it, you would simply sink, through cloud and mist and ever heavier layers, with no floor ever meeting you. It is a world made almost entirely of sky, all atmosphere and no land, a vast and bottomless realm of drifting cloud. It turns quietly in the dark, offering nothing solid to hold, only softness folding endlessly into more softness, on and on. Toward the hidden heart, Jupiter is circled by dozens upon dozens of moons. Jupiter is not so much a single world as a small kingdom, attended by a great host of moons, dozens and dozens of them, from 4 large and famous worlds down to countless tiny captured stones. Circling the giant, they form a miniature system all their own, a family within the family. Some are icy, some are fiery, some are little more than drifting rock, and the smallest were likely wandering bodies caught long ago by Jupiter's gentle pull. Together they wheel around their enormous parent in a slow and intricate dance, keeping Jupiter company through the long, cold ages. They trace their wide and looping paths without hurry, a whole gathering of worlds far out in the quiet dark, circling on and on, while the giant keeps its watch, faithful and unhurried. Jupiter's moon, Ganymede, is the largest moon in the whole solar system. Among Jupiter's many moons, one stands out for its sheer size. Ganymede is the greatest moon anywhere in the Sun's family, larger even than the planet Mercury. If it circled the Sun on its own, we would surely call it a planet in its own right. Instead, it orbits Jupiter, a giant moon around a giant world. It even carries a faint magnetic field of its own, the only moon known to do so, wrapped quietly around its icy bulk. Beneath its icy shell, it may even hide a hidden ocean of water, dark and still and deep. It is a world masquerading as a moon, vast and quiet and frozen, keeping faithful company with the king of the planets, turning gently through the endless cold, asking for nothing at all. Jupiter's moon, Europa, hides an ocean beneath its icy crust. Europa is one of the most intriguing places in all the solar system. From outside, it is a smooth ball of ice, pale and cracked and gleaming, its surface laced with long reddish lines like veins. But beneath that frozen shell, warmed by the gentle flexing of Jupiter's pull, there is thought to lie a deep ocean of liquid water, perhaps holding more water than all the seas of Earth. The tides of the giant knead the moon softly, and that slow kneading keeps the sea from freezing solid. Hidden away in the cold and the dark, a whole secret sea may be quietly turning. It is one of the places we most wonder about, a frozen moon with a hidden ocean, keeping its gentle mystery far from the sun. Jupiter's moon Io is the most volcanic world we know. Circling close to Jupiter is Io, a strange and restless little moon, the most volcanically active place in the entire solar system. Squeezed and stretched relentlessly by the giant's gravity and tugged as well by its sister moons, its insides are kept hot and molten. Its surface is dotted with erupting volcanoes that throw fountains of sulfur high above it, falling back in slow, soft arcs. It glows in yellows and oranges and reds, forever remaking its own face, never keeping the same one for long. Even out in the deep cold, far from the sun's warmth, this little moon burns and churns, kept alive by the ceaseless pull of its enormous neighbor. And still, from a distance, it turns gently on, a small warm light glowing softly in the dark. Jupiter quietly guards the inner planets from wandering comets. Great Jupiter does more than reign over the outer dark. Its enormous gravity acts as a kind of shield for the smaller worlds within, drawing in or flinging away many of the comets and stray bodies that might otherwise fall toward the inner solar system. Some it swallows whole into its clouds, and others it simply nudges onto safer paths, far from the little worlds. Again and again through the ages, the giant has taken the blow or turned the danger aside, sparing the little worlds nearer the sun. In its own vast and impersonal way, Jupiter has helped keep the inner planets safe, a great watchful guardian far out in the cold, steadying our quiet corner of space. It keeps its long, patient vigil still, asking nothing in return, calm through all the long ages. Jupiter gives off more heat than it receives from the sun. So far from the sun, you would think Jupiter must be simply cold, warmed only faintly by the distant light. But the giant has an inner warmth of its own. It radiates more heat out into space than it ever receives from the sun, slowly releasing the leftover warmth of its ancient formation, and gently shrinking as it does. As it contracts, ever so slightly, the squeezing keeps the deep interior warm, a slow furnace fed by nothing but time. It is, in a quiet way, still glowing faintly from its own birth, a great body cooling slowly over the ages. Deep within the striped giant, an old ember still smoulders, warming it softly from the inside out, patient and unhurried in the endless cold, holding a little of its beginning still. Saturn's rings are made almost entirely of ice. Of all the sights in the solar system, none is more beloved than the rings of Saturn, and they are even lovelier than they first appear. They are made of countless pieces of ice, from tiny grains to great tumbling boulders, each one circling the planet on its own path, all together forming those wide, bright, shining bands. The inner pieces hurry along a little faster, the outer ones drift a little slower, and so the whole vast field turns in gentle, layered motion. In the sunlight, they gleam like frost, a vast field of glittering ice wheeling silently around the golden planet. It is a natural wonder beyond anything we could build, a crown of ice and light, turning quietly in the cold and the dark, scattering the far sunlight into a soft and silver glow. Saturn's rings are astonishingly thin for their enormous width. The rings of Saturn stretch out for many thousands of miles, wide enough to span much of the distance between the Earth and the Moon. And yet, for all that width, they are incredibly thin. In most places, only a matter of yards from top to bottom. The gentle pull of the planet keeps them pressed into that flat and even sheet, smooth as still water. If you shrank the rings to the size of a football field, they would be far thinner than a sheet of paper. Seen edge on, they nearly vanish, a mere bright line across the planet. They are the most delicate of grand things, immense and paper-thin at once, a shining ribbon in the dark, hanging there weightless and calm around the golden world, still and serene. Saturn is so light, it would float in water. Saturn is a giant, second only to Jupiter in size, and yet it is made of such light and airy stuff that, ounce for ounce, it is lighter than water itself. It is built mostly of the lightest gases, loosely gathered, with so much empty softness folded through it. If you could find an ocean vast enough to hold it, Saturn would not sink. It would float, a great pale giant bobbing on the surface. It is the least dense of all the planets, a huge and gentle ball of gas, far bigger than the Earth, yet lighter for its size than almost anything. There is something wonderfully soft in the thought of so enormous a world, quietly buoyant, resting on the water, rocking a little in the slow imagined tide, calm upon its surface. Saturn's rings may be surprisingly young. We tend to imagine the rings of Saturn as ancient, as old as the planet itself, but there are gentle hints that they may be far younger than that, perhaps only a few 100 million years old, formed long after the solar system began, from a moon or comet that drifted too close and was broken apart. Its icy pieces, it is thought, spread slowly into the wide, bright rings we see today. If so, then the dinosaurs may have looked up at a Saturn with no rings at all, and the great crown we admire is a recent gift, a passing splendor. We may simply be fortunate to live in the age when Saturn wears its rings, here to see them shining in the quiet dark. A brief, bright wonder, and ours to watch tonight. Saturn's rings will not last forever. The rings are not only perhaps young, they are also slowly fading. Little by little, the icy particles are drifting down onto the planet, drawn in by its gravity, falling as a faint and endless rain. High above the clouds, that slow ring rain glows softly as it goes, warming and vanishing into the golden air. Over many millions of years, the rings will gradually thin and disappear. But there is no sadness in it, only the slow turning of time. For now, and for ages yet, the rings remain in all their glory, and we are here to see them. Nothing in the sky is truly permanent. Even the grandest and most beautiful things are only passing through, and are lovelier for it, shining while they may, turning softly overhead in the quiet dark tonight. Like Jupiter, Saturn has no solid surface. Saturn too offers no ground to stand upon. It is a great ball of gas, growing slowly denser toward its hidden center, with no firm surface anywhere along the way. Beneath the golden clouds lie ever deeper layers of gas and liquid, warmer and heavier the further down you go, and no shore ever appears. To fall into Saturn would be to sink endlessly through softening light and thickening mist. There would be no splash, no landing, only the gentle closing of the haze above you. For all its beauty and its famous rings, the planet itself is a realm of pure sky, bottomless and calm, a vast, gentle giant made of almost nothing solid at all, turning quietly in the far, cold dark, holding its soft depths close. It asks for nothing and simply drifts on. Saturn has more confirmed moons than any other planet. Saturn keeps a great and growing family of moons, more than any other planet we know, a whole crowd of worlds large and small circling the ringed giant. Some are sizable and round, others a little more than tumbling icy stones caught up in its pull, and new ones are still being found in the quiet dark. Many of the smallest keep to the far outer reaches, looping slowly on long and lazy paths. Together with the rings, they make Saturn a busy and intricate little system, ringed and moon-crowded, endlessly turning. The golden planet does not travel alone through the dark. It moves surrounded by companions, a gentle multitude keeping it company far from the sun, drifting along beside it through the long, slow ages, none of them ever truly alone. Saturn's moon Titan has rivers and seas of liquid methane. Titan, Saturn's largest moon, is one of the strangest and most wonderful worlds in the solar system. It is the only moon with a thick atmosphere of its own, a hazy golden sky that hides its face from view. And beneath that haze, it is the only other place we know where liquid pools upon the surface. But it is far too cold there for water, which lies frozen hard as stone. Instead, Titan has rivers, lakes, and seas of liquid methane, flowing and rippling in the dim light, fed by a slow and gentle methane rain. It is a world eerily like our own, with clouds and rain and shorelines all made of something else entirely quiet and cold and beautiful, waiting patiently beneath its amber sky, still and far away. Saturn's moon, Enceladus, sprays ocean water into space. Small and bright, Saturn's moon Enceladus hides a remarkable secret. Beneath its icy shell lies a hidden ocean of liquid water, kept warm by the steady kneading of Saturn's pull. And from great cracks near its south pole, that water sprays out into space in enormous gentle plumes, freezing into glittering crystals as it goes. The tiny grains rise in slow, soft fountains, catching the far sunlight as they drift. Some of that icy spray even drifts out to help feed Saturn's rings. It is a tiny frozen moon that quietly breathes seawater into the sky. A small, distant world with an ocean inside it, sending soft fountains of ice up into the dark. It is one of the gentlest wonders we have found, glittering silently far from the sun, patient and cold. A strange six-sided storm crowns Saturn's North Pole. At the very top of Saturn, wrapped around its North Pole, there turns a curious and enormous feature. A great storm shaped, remarkably, like a hexagon, a nearly perfect six-sided form, wide enough to swallow several Earths. Its straight, clean edges are drawn, it is thought, by the smooth, deep currents of wind that circle the pole. It has spun there steadily for as long as we have watched it, its clean, geometric edges holding firm against all the swirling of the clouds. No one is entirely certain why it takes that shape. It is one of the solar system's quiet oddities, a giant six-sided crown resting atop the golden planet, turning slowly and silently in the far cold dark. It keeps its strange calm through all the long years, asking nothing at all. Uranus rolls around the sun, tipped completely on its side. Far out beyond Saturn circles Uranus, and it travels in a most unusual way. While the other planets spin more or less upright as they orbit, Uranus is tipped right over, lying on its side, rolling around the sun like a great ball rather than spinning like a top. Because of this, its poles take turns facing the sun, and its seasons are strange and extreme, each one lasting more than 20 Earth years. For all that long while, one whole half of the world may lie in unbroken daylight, and the other in endless night. Some long ago collision may have knocked it over. Now it simply rolls along its orbit, a pale, tilted world quietly out of step with all the rest, keeping its slow, strange time far out in the cold. Uranus was the first planet ever found with a telescope. The planets you can see with your own eyes, Mercury through Saturn, have been known since ancient times, watched by every civilization that ever looked up. But Uranus is too dim and distant for the unaided eye, and so it went unnoticed for all of human history, mistaken now and then for a faint and ordinary star. Then, only a few centuries ago, an astronomer with a telescope caught it at last and saw that it slowly moved. It was the first new planet ever discovered, the moment our solar system grew larger than the ancients had ever known. A faint blue-green point, waiting patiently in the dark, finally seen and gently gathered into the family of worlds. It had drifted there quietly all along, waiting to be known. Uranus is the coldest planet in the solar system. Though Neptune lies farther from the Sun, it is Uranus that holds the record for the coldest temperatures of any planet. Deep in its atmosphere, the cold sinks to depths beyond anything on Earth, colder than any winter our world has ever known. For reasons not fully understood, Uranus seems to have lost much of the inner warmth its siblings still hold, perhaps drained away by whatever once tipped it on its side. And so it lies especially cold and still, a pale and frigid world at the far edge of the light. It drifts quietly through the deep dark, wrapped in a chill beyond imagining, its calm blue face turned softly toward the distant stars, at peace in the great cold silence. Nothing hurries it, and nothing disturbs its long repose. Uranus and Neptune are known as the ice giants. Jupiter and Saturn are the great gas giants, made mostly of the lightest gases. But the two outer worlds, Uranus and Neptune, are a little different, and we give them their own name. They are the ice giants, made in large part of heavier, icier materials, water and ammonia and other frozen compounds deep within, wrapped in cold blue atmospheres. Beneath those calm blue skies lies a vast, warm slush, neither quite solid nor quite liquid, pressed down by the weight above. They are smaller than the gas giants and colder, and further still from the sun, a matched pair of pale blue worlds keeping the outer frontier quiet and dim and distant, marking the far edge of the planets in the cold. They drift on side by side, calm companions at the border of the light. Neptune was discovered through mathematics before anyone ever saw it. Neptune has a remarkable story. Astronomers noticed that Uranus was not moving quite as expected, as though something unseen were tugging at it. Using only mathematics, they calculated where a hidden planet would have to be to explain the pull, working patiently through page after page of figures. And when they pointed their telescopes to that exact spot in the sky, there it was, close to where the numbers had promised. Neptune was found on paper before it was ever found in the heavens, predicted by pure reasoning, and then simply confirmed. It stands as one of the quiet triumphs of the human mind, a whole world discovered first in numbers, then in light, waiting there all along to be found. It had circled the far dark unseen, patient beyond counting. Neptune has the fastest winds in the solar system. Distant, cold Neptune might seem a still and sleepy world, but within its deep blue atmosphere blow the fiercest winds anywhere among the planets, racing faster than the speed of sound, faster than any storm on Earth could ever reach. Great dark storms come and go across its face, vast oval shadows that open and fade within a season, driven by those tremendous gales. No one is quite sure what feeds such fury so far from the sun's warmth. It is strange that the planet farthest from that warmth, where you would expect only frozen stillness, should be the windiest of all. Out there in the deep cold, the blue giant is anything but quiet, its distant skies forever racing, streaming silently on through the dark, far beyond our hearing and far beyond our reach. Deep inside Neptune and Uranus, it may rain diamonds. Far below the blue clouds of the ice giants, the pressures grow so immense and the temperatures so extreme that scientists believe something extraordinary may happen. The carbon in their depths may be squeezed into diamonds, which then sink slowly downward, falling like glittering hail through the dark interior, a gentle rain of gemstones drifting toward the center. It may go on, silent and unseen, for as long as the planets endure. Perhaps the largest of them gather far below, in a still bright sea we will never touch. We can never see it, and it remains a careful guess. But it is a lovely thought to carry into sleep that somewhere out in the cold blue giants, it may quietly be raining diamonds, forever falling in the dark, soft and slow and endless. A single year on Neptune lasts 165 Earth years. So vast is Neptune's orbit, so far does it lie from the Sun, that it takes 165 of our years to circle around just once. It moves so gently along that enormous path that its progress is almost too slow to notice. Since it was discovered less than 2 centuries ago, Neptune has only recently completed its very first full orbit in all the time we have known it. No person who witnessed its discovery lived to see it return to that same place in the sky. Out at the edge of the planets, the years grow so long that a single one outlasts many human lifetimes, unwinding slowly in the dark, patient beyond all our hurried days. It circles on quietly, keeping its own vast and gentle time. Neptune's largest moon, Triton, circles the planet backward. Almost every large moon in the solar system orbits in the same direction its planet turns. But Triton goes the other way, sweeping around Neptune quietly against the grain. This gentle wrongness is a clue to its past. Triton was most likely not born beside Neptune at all, but was a wandering icy world captured long ago by the giant's gravity as it drifted too close. Now it circles faithfully in its backward path, a stranger adopted into the family, slowly drawing nearer to Neptune over the long ages. It is a cold and quiet moon, with faint geysers whispering from its frozen surface, keeping its odd and lonely orbit far out in the dark, patient and unbothered. Only one spacecraft has ever flown past Uranus and Neptune. The outer ice giants are so distant that we have visited them only once. A single spacecraft, launched long ago and still traveling, swept past Uranus and then Neptune decades ago, giving us our only close look at those pale blue worlds before continuing on into the dark. In just a few brief hours at each, it gathered nearly everything we know of them, everything we truly know of those worlds, we owe to that one fleeting encounter. They remain the least explored of the planets, distant and dim and rarely visited, quietly awaiting the day we return. For now they drift on undisturbed, keeping the far frontier in silence and in cold, turning gently at the edge of the light. They wait without impatience, calm in the long dark until we come again. The most distant world we have ever visited is a tiny frozen one. Far out in the Kuiper Belt, more than 4 billion miles away, drifts a small icy body shaped a little like 2 soft lumps gently joined together. A passing spacecraft flew by it some years ago, making it the farthest object we have ever seen up close. It is ancient and unchanged, a frozen relic left over from the very birth of the solar system, preserved in the deep cold, as if in a long and gentle sleep. Out there in the dark and the quiet, it has drifted undisturbed for billions of years. A small, still witness to the beginning of everything, waiting patiently at the far edge of the light, keeping its ancient secret in the cold. Beyond Neptune lies the Kuiper Belt, a great ring of frozen worlds. The planets do not mark the end of the solar system. Out past Neptune stretches a vast, cold ring of icy bodies called the Kuiper Belt, a distant cousin of the asteroid belt, but far larger and made of ice rather than rock. Pluto is one of its members, and there are countless others, small frozen worlds drifting slowly through the deep cold, most of them still unknown to us. They are spread so thinly across that huge space that each one sails alone, seldom near another. It is a dim and quiet frontier, sparsely scattered with ice, marking the outer reaches of the Sun's family, where the light grows faint and the dark grows wide, and everything moves with the slowness of the far away, gentle and patient in the cold. Far past everything may lie the Oort cloud, the Sun's true frontier. Beyond even the Kuiper belt, far out in the dark, there is thought to lie something truly vast, a great spherical cloud of icy bodies called the Oort cloud, wrapping the entire solar system like a faint and distant shell. It reaches so far that its outer edge may be nearly halfway to the next star. Its countless icy pieces drift there in the deepest cold, so slow and so far apart that ages pass between one and the next. From time to time, one of its icy members drifts inward and becomes a comet in our skies. We have never seen the cloud directly. We only know it by the comets it sends us, one at a time. It waits out there in the deep cold, the true and distant border of our quiet corner of space. The sun blows a vast, invisible bubble around the whole solar system. Streaming out in every direction, the sun's constant wind of particles pushes far into space, carving a great protective bubble that wraps around all the planets, which we call the heliosphere. Within it, we are sheltered, wrapped in the sun's gentle influence, guarded from much of the harsher radiation that drifts between the stars. Only at its distant edge, far beyond the farthest planet, does the sun's wind finally slow and fade and give way to the space between the stars. We live our whole lives deep inside this quiet bubble, cradled in the sun's far-reaching breath, held softly within its wide and invisible embrace, safe and warm and unaware. Our most distant spacecraft are still bound by the sun's gravity. We have sent a few small machines farther than anything else humanity has ever made, out past all the planets, into the space between the stars. And yet, for all that unimaginable distance, they have not truly left the sun behind. Its gentle gravity still reaches them, still holds them faintly, and will for a very long time to come. So enormous is the sun's reach that they will travel on for many thousands of years before they are truly free of it. The sun's family is so vast that even our farthest travelers are still within it, still quietly bound to the fire at the center. Even now, as you rest, they sail on through the dark, carrying our reach outward, small and steady, alone in the vast and gentle dark. Everything you have heard tonight is made of the same dust that made you. We have wandered from the fire at the center all the way out to the frozen edge, past every world in the sun's great family. And through all of it, one quiet truth has been waiting. The sun, the planets, the moons and the rings, the ice and the rock, and the distant drifting comets, and you yourself resting here in the dark, were all made from the same ancient cloud, the same old stardust gathered long ago. The iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, all of it was forged in the hearts of stars. You are not separate from any of it. You are the solar system's own quiet way of pausing for a moment to wonder at itself, warm and small and briefly awake. And now, gently, we come to the end of our long, slow journey. We began at the fire in the center, and we have drifted all the way out to the farthest cold, past 100 small truths, one at a time. We passed the great, bright sun that holds almost everything. We passed the small warm worlds, Mercury and Venus, Earth and Mars, and the scattered rubble of the belt. We wandered among the giants, Jupiter with its ancient storm, Saturn with its crown of ice, and the pale blue ice giants at the edge of the light. We looked out at the frozen frontier where the sun's family fades quietly into the dark. You do not need to hold any of it now. Let it drift away like a tide slipping back from the shore. Let your shoulders settle. Let your breathing grow slow and even. Feel the gentle weight of the earth beneath you, holding you as it always has, turning quietly through space with you upon it. Above you, far beyond the ceiling and the roof and the clouds, the planets are still turning in the dark, the sun still burning, the moon still circling, all of it going on softly, without you, asking nothing of you at all. There is nothing left to do tonight and nowhere you need to go. The sun will rise again in the morning, exactly as it always has, and the great slow solar system will keep its patient time whether you are watching or not. So let yourself sink now, down into rest, a small warm point of stardust on a small blue world, safe in our quiet corner of space. Sleep well and dream softly. Good night.